we're just going to go and spend a few minutes now with what we call our superstar panel. And these are long-established clients of iIntro, and I've got some questions for them. And from those questions, make some other questions that you want to ask them. The reason for asking them to sit on this low stage, so you can not raised up, is so that you can ask them questions that you might think are relevant to you to help you actually get iIntro better implemented or integrated into your business. So. The first question I've got, and it's going to be a question to all of them, so I'm going to start with Andy because he's on this end, which is to describe his business, when it started, how long he's been using iIntro with it, and then he'll tell you about the market sector he works in, the sweet spot of roles he works in. So you'll have an understanding of each of their businesses. So we'll just go through that question to each of you. We'll start with you, Andy.
Sure. Okay, so can everyone hear the back? Yeah? So my business is Rra Panel. We started in 2008 and we focused on what we describe as critical hires for discretionary consumer goods businesses, or discretionary consumer spend businesses. So our clients are all sorts of people from Burberry to Vans, Triumph motorbikes, Harley Davidson, headphone brands, all sorts of people like that. And our roles are predominantly across Europe, a little bit in North America, a little bit in Asia Pacific, and we're recruiting things like global sales director, marketing roles, things like that originally before we really got into the iIntro journey. So we got into iIntro, I'm not too sure. Armin thinks it was 2015, I think it was 2014.
It was one of those.
A while ago.
4 or 5 years.
And what we did at that point was kind of really start over with our marketing process and how we sold the business. And the outcome of that is now we're working on things like Chief Data Science Officer and Chief Analytics Officer and CMO, those type of roles. So first of all, you know, the roles are more senior, they're the next tier up, if you like, in the business, and correspondingly the fees are higher, just on a percentage basis. Secondly, we're almost entirely retained search now. And thirdly, we've got away from the relationship with the head of talent acquisition, and our relationship is now with the CEO or the MD or the regional VP or whoever it might be. So actually what we found is quite often the person in charge of recruitment hates us because we have a direct relationship right around them to the person who runs the business, who just says, pay them this amount and do what they say. Which is not bad starting point, really, is it? Yeah, so that's what's happened.
Okay, thanks. Chris, numero uno, as we like to refer to you as. We probably don't
yeah, that's only based on longevity rather than stature. Yeah, but I'm the managing director of the Advocate Group. We are a search and selection business covering a couple of different sectors, but predominantly consumer products, some synergy there, more on the FMCG side and the manufacturing space, process manufacturing largely. So we do mid to senior appointments, what we class as key hires within those organisations, both from a head office or site level, sales, marketing, operations, procurement, supply chain, etc. We established in back in 2011. We started using iIntro, I think,
September 2013, the first one.
There you go.
You said that without moving your lips.
Yeah. And with a slight accent. It sounded more exotic. So yeah, we've used it quite successfully in that time period as a additional point. Look, we were already positioning ourselves as a search and selection business, quoting the added value piece. So for me, it really dovetailed into our recruitment process, allowing an extension of what we do, but also that point of difference.
Alright, thanks Chris. Paul?
You know me
Right,
already.
Paul.
No, so we 2007, Pam and I started the Grass Greener Group. So in terms of when we started, we were at 100% contingency. Apart from one client who just assumed that we were retained and paid us. I couldn't believe it. Yeah. We nearly went out of business when the recession hit, and we had to sit down and think about a way that was going to be different, adding value. And we came up with all kinds of different concepts using an iPad, which just about come out at the time, and some spreadsheets and a third-party video software solution, and we cobbled together what is now iIntro, and we went and pitched into a business in Belgium, and sort of was acting as though we'd done it before, and they paid us the £40,000 total fee, split down into €3,000 at the time, and we thought, oh, hang on, this might work. And then we just developed it further and further and further. The markets that we work in are typically sort of industrial, manufacturing, engineering, mid-level salespeople, senior management, sub-senior management, operations, technical, that type of position. But of course now we're 100% retained. We charge for the most part in 3 stages. And of course, to coincide with that, over the years we've developed version 1, version 2, and now version 3 of iIntro, which you guys obviously share with us. So there you go, that's me. This is my friend James.
Thank you. James is the most important because he's got the posh seat.
Yeah, I don't know why I got the posh seat, but no. So James Morehouse, I founded a company called ABN Resource back in 2012. Our market is the oil industry, so what we don't do is engineers, it's more very senior sales or executive appointments, and that's over 4 markets. One is lubricants, so that's engine oils, not sex related. Fuel, pipeline industry, and oil traders. So 2012 for a few years, it was quite a nice business to work in 3 days a week and enjoy a nice life. Got a bit more serious a couple of years after that, and 2016 we took out iIntro. At that point we were 50% contingency, 50% retained, and we're dealing on salaries around the 50k mark. Now our average salaries are 85k. We've seen a fee increase by 20%, and we're over 90% retained now.
Great.
Oh, and 70% overseas, whereas we were all UK before iIntro.
At that point about overseas, that's the second person. Paul made a point earlier about a lot of Paul's work is overseas as well, and iIntro just lends itself to that. So don't be afraid of actually sort of looking for international work that gets from there. So the next question is, please, that's right. Describe your experience with iIntro and what it's done for your business. I'll start with you first, Chris.
Look, as I mentioned before, I think it's an enhancement of a service rather than a complete change. I think you have to be of the mindset of being value add recruitment and looking for that sort of increased type of commitment before you just bolt it on. I think that's sort of positioned in the right way. But look, what has it done for us? I think, certainly from those early stages, there's more talk about video introduction, but from us, we've massively capitalised and won some considerable clients off the back of points of difference. I think a lot of the times as well, you've got the measurable element of how many retainers did you win via it, but I actually, being still very frontline orientated and still very customer acquisition focused, I've had a lot of clients use us off the back. So we don't only work retained, just to clarify, we work probably 80% exclusive, 50% of that 80% will be retained, so we're probably like a 35-40% retained business. But why I'm highlighting that is because sometimes with certain clients I've shown them the system and the product, and they've ended up working with us. For whatever reason, they've not chosen to adopt the system, be that cost, be that additional process introduction, but the fact that we showed them something different enabled us to get through the door in the first place. I have a lot to thank the system for.
And one of the things that Chris doesn't know this, but I actually think about Chris quite a lot in training, because one of the things I think you do at Advocate Group is actually he's made the platform, in this case Advocate 360, part of his DNA, his business DNA. He leads with it all the time. But as you heard, what it does, it helps him win business despite the fact they don't use the platform. And that's the bit I think you've done really well over the last 6 years in terms of
I think the versatility as well, and thinking about what it is and what it does, and the bits that you can do and the use of the launchpad interview, and actually someone doesn't want to pay you 30%, but they like elements of the platform. What elements can you use in order for, still good fees, maybe the 22% mark, reducing some of those elements and some of the scenarios. I know Paul is a big leader with McQuaig, and I don't disagree with that. I think McQuaig's a great tool, but I don't lead with it in the same way. But still finding success. But it's different, whatever. Yeah.
So James, same question to you. What do you think it's done for your business? I think you mentioned some of it a moment ago.
Yeah, well, it's been a game changer, to be honest. I mean, probably the reason we bought it initially was a point of differentiation. We had two competitors doing what we do, and we tender against them all the time, and it literally came down to who had the nicest personality and the cheapest fee would get the deal.
You cheaped it.
Oh, and I was never cheap. And sometimes my personality isn't great for everyone. But once we started going in on those tenders, we actually said, look, this is something these guys don't have, and this is the value it's going to bring to your business. So we started picking up a lot more deals. As a business owner, I'm quite a stat finance geek. So if you can think within 3 years, we've got a 20% increase in the fee point, so we're now 27% total annual remuneration, which is where we're at now, which is what we didn't have pre-intro. We've also increased our average salary level by 40%, so we're doing less work for more money, more profit. If you compound that every year, because it's growing every year, we've seen rapid scale, extra profitability. So thanks.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming. Andy, beat that.
No competition. So we've doubled in size, both in terms of revenue and headcount. But what it's done for the business is get us away from will you recruit a head of sales for the UK type role to can you replace the entire board or rebuild the entire board. We've just done that for a 200 million turnover e-com business. So pretty much everybody apart from the buying director and the CEO we've put in over the last 18 months. So HRD, distribution, finance director, all of those pieces. And of course it becomes easier the more pieces that you slot into a business because you know all the personalities. It's a nicer piece of work to do. You do feel like a trusted advisor, a consultant to the business. They show us around the office and take us for dinner and treat us like a proper supplier rather than picking the phone up and saying, 15% take it or leave it. And we're like, okay, we'll leave it. See ya. It really is a very different conversation. So it's good from that perspective. I think picking up on, I think Chris said actually, it's not really about the actual functionality of the software for us. It's about the change in mindset. So we've taken it and we've developed some different tools that we put into our intro process. So we have a couple of scorecards. One is a contextual experience scorecard. So we used some research from Harvard, found 27 major contextual experiences that C-suite people are faced with. So things like, to give you some context to that, have they dealt in a high conflict landscape or a low collaboration landscape, or have they worked across multiple international geographies, that type of thing. So candidates score themselves on that, and it gives a framework for the hiring manager to consider the candidate beyond, have they worked for such and such a business, or has their title been whatever their title's been, and translates it into tangible experience that relates to what they're going to have to do when they land in that particular job. So we've kind of remixed it for our business, and it just leads to a completely different conversation.
Great.
So
Thanks, Andy.
yeah.
James, what's been your favourite win using iIntro and why?
The next one. We always want more. Probably the sweetest one was our first deal in Europe, because what we were able to do as a UK-based business was speak to someone who didn't know us, our brand, or anything about what we do, and we could talk them through a very solid process as to how we're going to get them the perfect hire. And like I said earlier, 70% of our trade is overseas, but it all started from that first European deal. So that's probably the one I look back on as being the most fun.
Okay. Chris?
I'm still really heavily involved in the business when inside. I control freak, but I like to, to pitch and present. So I'm doing it a lot, and in a not arrogant, or not hugely arrogant way. But we win the majority of things that we pitch for. Our conversion ratios is what I was talking about earlier. From whatever the inquiry has led to that meeting, if we're pitching to something, we're achieving well over 90% of those and converting those against whoever the competitor.
Even me.
Yeah, I beat Paul before it's own product. But again though, but we've had some real significant ones. I remember, so obviously we do consumer products, so everyone will know McCain Foods, chips. So we went there to pitch for a piece of business, a number of commercial appointments. 10 recruiters invited in, 7 or 8 of them, as it's one of those days, full factory, tour, go round, introduce people, stand up, present, get listened to, whole thing. As we're going round, there's some of the other recruiters and directors that are there, they're walking around, people are walking out of their office, they're shaking hands with people, I'm like, they know people there, they've worked with them before, they're referencing it, when we play such and such, Anyway, long story short, we won, and we found out we were the only business that pitch retained, and we were the highest percentage. So, apart from the fact that we come across amazingly, jokes aside, I absolutely did lead with Advocate 364 iIntro as that point of difference, and it really resonated, and I could see it as I was pitching it as well. I could see it resonating, I could see the notes and the whispers to it, so and then what we found out yesterday, I signed a 2-year deal with an organisation. It's quite low level for us as well, like 35 to 40k salespeople, relatively regular hire. We've agreed 10,000 a month for 2 years. Which equivalent per hire, it works out at about 20%, but it's committed business for that length of time. But again, I do put, and since that pitch as well, this is a manufacturing business, they've contacted us to say, look, I know it might not be your level, but do you think you could use the same sort of thing to introduce? We want to open a customer service centre. We want 30 customer service people, 25k. I'm a director of another business called Aspian, who do that level of recruitment, so I've been able to facilitate them into it. So so it's a lucrative deal. I'm not saying it's only down to the iIntro product, but it's that point of difference that really does separate us.
Right. Paul, have you got anything?
Just, I want to tell a quick story, but on the back of that, I find that when I'm placed in that scenario and I'm thinking, this is going well, I find that typically they don't ask me the 2 obvious questions, which is, how do you recruit and what do you know about our business? Because we're not actually we specialise in some verticals, but not experts. So it's always been vitalised. It was always very difficult for me to go in. I've got 20 years experience in your industry, because I didn't. I don't find that anybody, not never, but very rarely do they actually ask me, what do you know about our industry and how do you recruit? Because after we've been through the whole systematic approach to everything, it'd probably be it wouldn't be appropriate for them to ask you that question, which people find quite amazing, really. so that was just piggybacking on what Chris said. But in terms of one of the great stories for us that's come out of my intro is a chap called Peter Van Steen, a Dutch guy. We had a retained search for a Dutch business called Interbulk, and we delivered a short list of 2 or 3 candidates. He was the favourite by a long shot. First interview, second interview, they made him an offer, and he called me up the next day. I'm thinking he's accepted. He said, basically, you've been gazumped. A company called Netafim from Israel's coming for me. Different industry, sounds really exciting. It's on my doorstep, and they're going to pay me an extra 100,000 on top. So, well, all the best then. So we had to go back to the client and try and patch that relationship up. They sort of saw it as a little bit of our fault. And then what happened is, about 2 months later, the candidate came back to us. I was surprised to obviously take his call, and he said that, Paul, I was placed at this Netafim business by Corn Ferry. However, I've now got 2 or 3 vacancies that we'd like to engage you guys to recruit for us. And I said, well, why not Corn Ferry? He said, just transactional, they placed me, thanks very much. But what you took me through as a candidate with the intro process and as difficult as it was. Oh, and by the way, Paul, when I recorded the video, you only saw to there because I had my underwear on. And that obviously, that's gone on now. We've done, how much have we done with that? A couple of £100,000?
£250,000 worth of
Over 2 years.
Client. Stop candidate that we never placed.
So that, you know, that's just a little bit about it. And that's not a one-off. We've got lots of our candidates, whether we place them or not, come back to us when it's time for them.
That's what goes back to when I said earlier, candidates are just clients in disguise.
Yeah.
Andy, what about you? Your favourite piece? Mine or client or candidate?
I think the best one was going in to see a new client who called us in because Heinrich and Struggles have been trying to get them an interim for 3 or 4 months. The fee was structured rather oddly for an interim appointment. It was structured like a retained, so third. They managed to persuade the client to pay 45% for this placement, so they paid them 30 grand up front. Hydrix had given them 6 candidates. They said those 6 aren't any good, send us another 6. So Hydrix did send them another 6 plus another invoice for 30 grand, which was brilliant from my perspective because they lost their temper with them. Called us in, we filled it in about 3 or 4 weeks, did it for an entire fixed fee of 35,000, and probably done about 250 grand with those guys since. So, you know, sometimes you just need a little bit of luck on the timing and to come and to be presenting a different proposition to the people that have just pissed them off immediately before.
Thank you.
Difficult to manufacture that one, I know, but it was sweet.
I think what you're hearing there, obviously a number of stories from experienced users, but rather than me asking questions, I'll take 3 or 4 questions, one for each of them. So if anyone's got a question you want to ask James Morehouse, raise your hand and ask it. Oh, James, you've got a look. Anyone want to ask James a question? Anybody want to ask anybody a question? There you go. Just one, Jamie. Just one. Choose your best one.
Do you, each of you use it when hiring internally?
Yeah. Someone's going to have to come in and sell it, so they need to believe it. Before they come in.
Jamie works in Grass Green and he
Can I answer
completely
that first? Paul,
Yeah.
we use it internally, and one of the best things about that is when I present to someone new, I can talk them through it, and if they've got any reservations about doing videos or anything like that, I can turn around and say, you know what, I've been through the entire process. I'm a recruiter, I love talking to people, but you play a video back at me and I hear my own voice, I can't stand it. So, from my point of view, it's much easier to sell to somebody.
I don't think you can't not use it because you're saying the whole proposition of our business is that we act in this way. If we didn't do that for our own hires, surely that says you just don't have any confidence in it, right?
Good question. Thank you, Jamie. Jamie's got another question if nobody else has got one. Oh, go on, Hannah.
Andy, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So when your business started, what percentage were you in contingency against search, and how has that balance changed since you've introduced our intro? That would be the first half of the question. if you don't mind.
So when we first started, we were probably 50-50 retained and contingency, and now we're entirely retained
Okay.
by the odds thing. Yeah.
And the second half, which is its big one, I'll warn you. So
Okay.
how exactly did you implement the intro into the business seamlessly? So did you begin to introduce new consultants kind of from a more search background, or how did you do that?
Well, we
Just
didn't do
out
it
of
seamlessly, that's the answer to that, basically. I would have very much liked to do that. In all honesty, I had two ladies working for me at the point that we brought our intro in, and the reality was neither of them had the self-confidence or the gravitas to operate in this style of work. And unfortunately, one went, and the other one, actually, what I did with her was she'd been with me for quite a period of time, so I actually gave her some clients that were only ever going to be contingency clients, and sent her on the way to set up her own business with those clients as a parting gift. So she went, and we now have others in the business. So yeah, I think if you're going to change to this model, that might involve changing some of your people.
the whole operating model?
Not necessarily. No, not the way that you sell. Your marketing proposition has to change, no question, because you're not selling probably like Paul is in a regular, the way Paul described earlier. You won't be selling that way in a regular, contingency or retained search business. So you don't have to change your entire operating model for your business, but you certainly need to look at your front end people and whether they have the gravitas to carry that on.
And not only that, you don't always have to use it in its entirety. You don't have to have all the bells and whistles for every campaign. You know, if you've got people that are, in this case, Chris is probably best positioned because he does more contingency, I think, than us three. But you can always just use our intro to upload a CV, a photograph, maybe some key facts or references or something like that. And then you're tying the customer in to using the system. They log in, they feel it, and then they might just come and ask you a question. There's no video here. Is it possible to get a video? Oh well, it is, but this is part of our return service. You've got the comment section, so you can start to see how the client's corresponding with each other, the different stakeholders in the business. You've got an inside track on their feedback.
Did you have any did you have any internal incentives, for instance, to sell on trade, for example, over just a contingency?
Commission?
Yeah, keep your job.
Well, they don't have the choice.
I think when I think Hannah,
That's what you sell.
Hannah, one of the things when you are bringing in new, and obviously sometimes you can introduce some extra incentive, but fundamentally these guys, they've got the commission scheme. So I'm going to take one last question before we move on to the next section, which is all about stress-free sales. This is just me giving Klarman a heads up that he's about to come on the stage in a second. One last question from anybody?
Do you offer a sort of a full 100% money back guarantee? I've seen
You
that.
might get different answers there.
Yeah,
We offer a 1 month, 100% money back guarantee.
And at what point and how does that trigger?
Well, in 12, 13 years, it's only been triggered once, and that was a candidate that accepted the position, handed in his notice, and then he accepted it. We received our final payment within 7 days, and he pulled out. But actually, this was a long time ago, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and he's become a personal friend now. I've actually placed him 7 years later, so last year I placed him in another good company.
Just a very quick one, the points that I made, I wrote down before.
The key,
No, the key things, what I find just was the questions that you're going to be asking ahead of the pitch, that agenda setting, the agenda setting for the meeting. It's at least 75% of clients I go and meet walk into the meeting with our printed agenda, and they're ready, and in it says, and it's very simplistic, but your business structure, your current recruitment process, and your current recruitment challenges. Then part 2 is the advocate solution. So we're only going to get the questions that Paul spoke about earlier. We're going to get all them out, and then you're going to pitch the solution. We're not as only retained as, and we obviously do a lot more retained than what we did, and we still pitch for that. But if I will change it, if I pitch the whole solution and they're like, you know, we'll change it and go, okay, well, you know, we'll change the retain model, or we'll do that on exclusive for that project, etc. So yeah, the credibility of the questions, the agenda setting, and the interchangeable use of the platform. You know, some of them, like, you know, some of the volume stuff you can do on it, where it's just simply launchpad, no key competencies, no bequests. You can still use the ingenuity of the platform in order to get great commercial deals. So that's it.
Thank you, everybody.